Welcome to Espresso Jams, short, concentrated, delicious conversations about business, life, and more. And now, here's your host, Joe Matz.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the 39th edition of Espresso Jams. And I am so excited today because we have an international businesswoman with us. Rhonda Bowen is a global strategic communication guide. Hi, Rhonda, and welcome to the show.
Hi, Joe. It's so nice to be here with you today.
It is fantastic. It's so good to see you. And where do you hail from today?
Today I hail from Germany, a little town on the border to the Netherlands, about an hour northwest of Cologne, if people know where that is, sort of between Cologne and Amsterdam in the Netherlands. But originally I hail from Wellsboro, Pennsylvania.
Oh, that's a long
Yeah.
way. That's a long way apart. And you've had your own business there for 32 years. Is that
That's
correct?
right. That's right.
Fantastic. As
Yeah.
a global strategic communication guide, what is that?
Yeah, that's a good question to ask because that's the reason I say it that way, so that exactly people ask that question. Let me give it to you in an easier way. If you wanted to go to Paris, a beautiful city, and you wanted to visit the Eiffel Tower, you have one of two options. You go online, you book some funny bus tour where 40 other people get in a bus with you, they kick you out in front of the place, and you stand there for 15 minutes and you get back on the bus and you go away. That's not the way to see the Eiffel Tower. Or you book a really specialized tour guide who asks you all the right questions about, do you want to see it up close? Do you want to see it from far away? Do you want to see it at night when it's all lit up? Do you want to see it in the winter? Because then you can climb all the way up to the third rung and you can go ice skating
Oh,
on the
wow.
Eiffel Tower, for example. So when you're going to go to the Eiffel Tower and you don't know much about it beforehand, you need somebody who knows all those little details so you can decide the best way for you to see the Eiffel Tower. I do that with the communication world. I help people who say, I can't get my message across. I don't know exactly how this works. People don't understand me. I spend too much time in meetings. So I help them sort through all of those things. And then we find the best way for them to see the Eiffel Tower, meaning the best way for them to get their message across and also understand the messages that are coming from other people.
Wow. Okay. And you do that with different cultures, but also inside of organizations and different departments.
That's right. I've had the opportunity to work with people from more than 70 countries around the world, which is absolutely fantastic in many of those countries as well. But the thing I really love is seeing how many cultures there are inside one company. Let me give you an example. I work for an American IT company, but here in Europe, and they're a software implementation service. So they have 5 different departments: pre-sales, sales, customer service, maintenance, support, all these different groups of people. They all talk to the same customer,
Hmm.
but they all do different things for the same customer. And if they don't hand over from one department to the other, well, the customer calls, asks a question, and talks to 3 different people and gets 10 different answers. And they're confused.
Not ideal.
Not at all. And so I help these 5 departments. We all sit at one big table and we figure out the best way to make sure that everything is running consistently, not only internally among those groups, but also that the face to the customer also moves from phase to phase, and that they don't call somebody from the first phase when they're really in phase 4, and nobody in phase 1 understands what's happening in phase 4, so they're getting the wrong information. So we try to find strategies and ways, and we even sign contracts or agreements within the group that says, okay, this is the way we're now going to do things, and make sure that there's a better customer journey.
Sounds like, if I were to use the word processes and procedures, it sounds
Yes,
a lot like that to me.
yes, and it is. But it's all about the communication part.
The
So I'm
communication
not
part of that.
talking about how they set up the software or which consultant talks to people. I'm talking about how the information actually gets sent among various people within the company, but also to the outside, and how the feedback works so that everybody's on the same page.
And I think that there's a special perspective if you've lived overseas because we have to learn how to communicate in a different language in a different culture.
That's right.
But that's also true internally also. I mean, I've heard
Mhm.
sales people say, I don't speak techno speak. And I've heard technicians say, I don't speak marketing. And I think
Exactly.
I think that's very common, although we may not hear it as often.
And it's interesting when you talk to people from many different companies or from different countries, I find that two engineers who live on opposite sides of the world often understand each other better than the sales guy and the engineer who are in the same company, maybe even grew up in the same town and speak the same language, but they don't think at all the same way. And therefore, there's a lot more confusion between sales and engineering than there is between two engineers, one of whom is in the States and one of whom is in China.
Wow. So
Yeah.
how do you assess this situation when you first start working with a company, if I'm phrasing that question correctly?
Yeah. I have a 2-hour assessment that I use where I actually sit down with all the people in the team and we actually work through all of the things that are happening in the communication field and deciding what works well, but most of all deciding what doesn't work well. And once that we've gone through that 2-hour assessment, which is free of charge to the company, I then sit down and write up a series of either internal meetings or specific meetings I have with certain people to actually set up those wonderful processes and procedures you were talking about, so that when we look at this the next time, people can all look at that and say, yeah, that's a good way for us to move forward, and actually have sessions to practice how we do the handovers, or how I say to a customer, no, you're in phase 3 now, please call John. Because lots of people feel that they still need to help the customer, but they're not helping the customer, and they're not helping the company if they're not giving correct information.
Right. I find that so important that everyone in the process needs to know where the customer is in the process, and make sure the customer is talking to the person who can help the best, depending on what stage they're in.
Exactly.
So important. And I love the idea of the practice. Let's practice the handover, because ad hoc, it may not go as smoothly as if you had practiced a few times before getting into it.
Yeah. And the other thing that's really important is that a lot of people in the world are very much into theory. I could give you millions of pages online where you could read about all these things, but I'm the hands-on. I'm the learning by doing. I'm the let's get into the weeds and actually figure out what's happening, because it's like in American football. You know, if the quarterback throws the ball and there's nobody there to catch it, well, guess what? The message gets lost.
Yes.
You know, and we're in sort of those same kinds of things where I'm throwing something out there, but my colleague doesn't know, or nobody's filling in the CRM, or, you know, all those kinds of things where so much can get lost. And we want to make sure the communication doesn't get lost. That's really important.
So important. And I think you're right. You could read a lot about this. You can Google it, but it's more general. As we're talking about specific communication. So you really need a guide like yourself.
Yeah.
And you did mention an assessment, and we have an assessment for the listeners today.
Yes,
right?
we do.
We
This
have
is
a
a
free
slightly different assessment. You don't need 2 hours to do this assessment. This is an individual assessment, not for your whole company or your whole team, although we could start with this one and move on. This is an individual assessment from my communication framework, which is called Creavelop, which is half create and half develop. And there are 9 different phases in there, and you'll get a chance to answer some questions. And once you submit this, we'll send you a report that shows you which things you're easily working on with communication and which ones maybe are not quite so simple. And then there's a chance to sign up for a call if you'd like more information for yourself or for your company or for your team.
And that's all free.
And that's all free, yes.
That is awesome. I appreciate that. And I know our listeners do also. We're going to have links in the comments. We're going to have links right in the video. Probably you're seeing it right now below where we're talking. And that is awesome. And that's a great way to see how Rhonda works and see what she does. It's a great introduction to Rhonda and her business. And Rhonda, how can folks get in touch with you if they want to know more?
Well, if they take the website where the link is and they just take off the Espresso JAM part, then you're definitely in my website. That's fine. Also on LinkedIn, Rhonda L. Bowen on LinkedIn. And as I said, just get in touch with me. We'll set up a time on my calendar, and then we'll actually talk just like this now and get a chance to find out where you're at and what we can do for your communication.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Rhonda, for being on the show. I sure appreciate it, and hope everything goes wonderful and you get some very nice warm summer over there in northern Germany.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. Thank you so much. Have a great time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye now.
Bye.